So it looks like it's going to be normal these days to release more powerful versions of existing consoles, like the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X. So naturally, some people have started suggesting that maybe consoles will follow the smartphone model, maybe people getting upgrades every couple of years or so. However, Sony have said there will definitely be a PlayStation 5, and they think console generations are here to stay. For now.
In an interview with German publication Golem, Sony Boss Shawn Layden said that the PlayStation brand will continue to follow the traditional console generation cycle and there will be a PlayStation 5. Golem asked Layden if there will be games which will only work for the PS4 Pro and not the base console, and Layden replied saying that will never happen. Layden elaborated on this saying the Pro is really only to offer advantages such as 4K resolution for players who can and want to use that, but people who have a standard PS4 will have no real disadvantages. Each of our games will continue to run on the classic PS4 and possibly slightly better on the Pro. Well, you'd expect so too, wouldn't you?
It's the classic. Price. It's only 3 years old.
We want it for that price. You know, you're paying more. You want it better, not possibly better.
It's a weird situation there, isn't it, where they're trying to make the Pro sound better, but not too much better than the original one, which they're now calling the classic, even though it's only 3 years old. And it's like this weird thing, they're pushing two consoles that are similar, and they're trying not to upset people on both sides, like people who have bought a Pro and people who are stuck with a classic. Golem also asked Layden whether PlayStation would move towards the smartphone style, where we see people upgrading every 2 years or so. But Layden said Sony will continue to make new traditional hardware, such as a PlayStation 5, but that will take some time.
Is it really just like terminology these days? PlayStation 5, I mean, it is an upgrade on the PlayStation 4 Pro. So the point for me is, what is the difference between a PlayStation 5 and like a PlayStation Pro Plus, as we might even call it? I mean, it's only terminology, isn't it, surely?
Christ. It's a weird situation because, like I just said, splitting up their console user base in, you know, some people have got the Pro version, some people have got the standard version, and it's all becoming a bit blurry, which is kind of what Microsoft want, kind of what PlayStation are here saying they don't want that. They want to be, you know, they want generations. They want, it's been working for them in the past. All of their consoles have been successes. PlayStation 3, whatever you think about that, it was a success for them eventually. They've made good money out of this traditional console cycle since the mid-90s. Why would they change that now? I guess is what their position is. What you're saying about bringing games over is like, that's totally right for me. A lot of us have got digital games now. What happens to all that? What happens to all those PlayStation 4 digital games that some of us have got? Are they going over to PlayStation 5 with us? It's those kind of questions that they're going to have to answer, and they're going to have to think about. Like, if they're designing a PlayStation 5, for me, from the ground up, they've got to bear that in mind. They've got to bring the digital games over with them, and they've got to be backwards compatible.
Bringing a new PlayStation out in the near future is going to be bad for gamers, because, like you said, they might not be able to carry forward all the games that they bought during the PlayStation 4 era. But it may be a good thing for developers, do you think? In that they won't have to continue to support two models, different specifications worth of systems.
Well, it's like we're getting to the stage in the life cycle now where last generation people were complaining, and we're already starting to see it. We saw that developer who did the story on Sunday with the news roundup, the developer saying PlayStation 4 is like a 5-year-old PC. You know, you see that kind of thing, you know, after a few years of a new console being out, and developers are starting to be like, oh, come on, we're having to make so many compromises to get this game working on console and stuff like that. So that's why we've got a Xbox One X, we've got the most powerful console ever, we've got the PlayStation 4 Pro and stuff. They're trying to, like, you know, appease that and keep things moving forward, but at the same time not forcing everyone out of the PlayStation 4 and into the PlayStation 5 and out of the Xbox One into the Xbox 2. I don't know what they're going to do there. They've snookered themselves with that name, haven't they? Like, what's Xbox One 2 going to be? Is there going to be one? They don't want generations anymore. It's because they called it Xbox One. Because they what name can they give the Xbox the next one?
I think for me, like, the question that's gone on my head is, are they trying to make it more appealing for developers by saying, we are going to have a PlayStation 5? Because if they do it iteratively, if you think about game development now, they've got to release a game that's supported for Pro and PlayStation. But once if they keep it iterative, they'll have to keep supporting the game. When they make games, they'll have to keep supporting each of the new consoles.
It'll be like PC development, basically.
Exactly.
It'll be closer to that.
So that's why I'm saying maybe it's more appealing to developers, for Sony to maintain their loads of exclusives as they are, for them to just come up with a PlayStation 5, so they won't have to, game developers won't have to accommodate for all the previous lower tier versions of the console. With Sony saying they're sticking to the tried and true console generations, what about Microsoft? Well, Albert Penello, chief hardware architect at Xbox, said that the Xbox One X could mark a change in the release cycle of consoles.
At E3 2017, Penello told Wired that he wasn't sure if console generations would become a thing of the past, but sticking to the rigid start and end of a generation is unhealthy for the industry. Penello described Microsoft's strategy as being focused on the software. He gave the example of phone apps and said, "You care more about the apps on your phone than the phone that they're on." He described gaming systems as the mechanism through which people experience their games, and the software is more important than the hardware it's being played on, which is ironic for a company that's been spouting about how powerful their newest console is for all, God knows how many months.
Penello was reluctant to give a definitive answer on console generations, saying, "I don't want to break consoles. I love console gaming. I don't want to get a new system every year either. I don't think anybody wants to do that. But who knows what kind of new technologies people are going to think up."
So that aside, there's some interesting comments about the focus on software. I would like to believe that what he's saying is that games, and you can see with the way they've been treating backwards compatibility, he's kind of saying that games are going to carry through. Maybe that's what it sounds like. It's all about, the software is the focus, so the machine that you're on doesn't really matter, and they want to give you more and more powerful machines as time goes on, and you can play the same software on it. That's kind of what I gather from that. The problem with what he said is that he's being a bit flaky, he's being a bit, wishy-washy with it all. It's not really cut and dry, as is quite refreshing from the Sony side. They're just saying, new generation every few years, that's what we're going to do. This is a little bit more nebulous than that, and it kind of feels like they maybe aren't sure exactly of where they're going to go, or they're not ready to confirm if they're going to commit to like mobile style upgrade system or a new generation every few years.
They'll probably do what they always do, is see what Sony do and try and react to
see what
how well they
at
do
them about on the internet, and we'll do that. So on the one hand, you have Sony, who say they are sticking to console generations and saying definitively there will be a PlayStation 5 sometime in the future. On the other, you have Microsoft, who have been open to the idea of getting rid of console generations entirely, but they do want to retain compatibility with Xbox One games across all hardware, it seems. Whatever the case, it's interesting that they're saying different things on this. It will be interesting as well to see what both Microsoft and Sony have in store for the future, and whether or not generations will stick around.
So how would you prefer your console cycle? Would you prefer it short and iterative or long and laboured? Let us know down in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new around here, check out some more of our content on your screen right about here. You can support us on Patreon if you're awesome on this link here, and we'll see you again in the next video. Until then, bye for now.